Yesterday I spent about 10 hours open field fighting in KvK, and this was the first time that I have gotten my hands on Emperor Chin on the battlefield. And I just gotta say, you guys, I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you so many months ago that this would happen. So today we're gonna go over everything that I have learned, sort of my first impressions of using Emperor Chin on the battlefield, and how I was able to predict that this would happen about 9 months ago. But before we begin, of course, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, as you guys know, I am a partner creator with Rise of Kingdoms, which means they support a few videos on the channel every single month, just like this one. But the most important support comes from you guys dropping a thumbs up down below and subscribing. Really helps out a ton. Okay, so let's jump right into it here. What was the warning that I tried to give you guys 9 months ago? And that was in the form of this video, the real truth about 9th generation commanders in Rise of Kingdoms. This was posted October 4th 2024, and today is July 3rd 2025. So almost exactly 9 months ago, I told you guys that the 9th generation of commanders were not must-have commanders for your average player. Okay, now I think a lot of people got confused by that and assumed that I was saying that these commanders are trash, and the world is not black and white. Okay, these commanders can still perform solid on the battlefield while simultaneously not being something that your average player should invest in. And in case you guys forgot, or in case you guys are new here, the 9th generation of commanders includes Shajar, which was the latest one. It started with Belisarius and also involved William Wallace. Now, we're not going to talk about like leadership and engineering. That's a topic for another video. We're talking about the 3 main troop types here. We're talking about Shajar, we're talking about William Wallace, we're talking about Belisarius Prime. And back in October, I tried to warn you guys that the average player does not need any of these commanders. But it doesn't stop there, because a few months later, January 19th 2025, I tried to warn you guys that Nevsky's time is coming to an end. He is being sunset. The future was not looking bright for Nevsky 6 months ago, and I tried so hard to warn you guys. And I remember for both of these videos, I remember getting pushback, people saying William Wallace is so good, Nevsky's my best performing March. All of that can be true while simultaneously being the case that it is not worth investing in at that time. So why am I reminding you guys of that now? And the answer is because we finally have Emperor Chin in the game, and he comes just a few months after we got our hands on Bai Chi, who comes just a few months after getting our hands on King Arthur. And these 3 commanders are the infantry, cavalry, and archer versions of last year's releases, right? These are the 10th generation releases, and these commanders are way better. It's not even close, brother. They're so much better than last year's commander releases. These are some of the single best commanders in the entire game, and we are only 7 months into 2025. Okay, it's possible that cavalry gets another release at the end of the year, at the beginning of December. Sometime in December, I would say we might see another cav release. There's also probably going to be another KvK story exclusive commander, and I expect that commander to either be archers, leadership, or range, but that's just my speculation. My point is, I tried to tell you guys months ago that the next generation is probably going to be much better than last generation, and look, we finally have the data, and it is not even close. They are twice as good, if not better. In fact, I compiled a little bit of data for my current KvK so far, but just out of curiosity, I just wanted to see which commanders were performing the best for me so far. And here we have Emperor Chin coming in 4th place, and I've only used him for about 10 hours in a single zone, right? He's already outperforming King Arthur, already outperforming Huo, Joan, Ragnar, Scipio, already. It's easy. He easily just walks on the battlefield and just farms kills. It's not even like, it's not a question. He just shows up and wins, and that's pretty much it. Now, obviously, Zhuge Liang is going to be a little bit higher because I used him a little bit in the previous zone with Hermann Prime, and I will admit that my previous zone's performance was just not good. It just wasn't good. No excuses. I should have performed better in last zone, and I didn't. But what we have here is, again, the data in my KvK for me so far, and you can see that Emperor Chin with Zhuge Liang is competing with my Bai Chi with Liu Che for the most amount amount of kills. Now the only reason Liu Che is higher than Bai Chi is because there was some instances where I was cheeseburgering with Liu Che Alex, still probably the best cheeseburger March in the game, to be honest with you, so his kills are going to be slightly higher. That's why you see Alex with a couple of kills on the board here. But the fascinating part about Emperor Qin immediately challenging my best March in the game, like immediately showed up in the battlefield and was like, hey, this might actually be my best March in the game. It blows my mind. So let me share with you guys first a couple of reports that I snagged from yesterday's fighting. Here we have Emperor Qin 2.4 million kill points to 318,000. Here's another one, 772%, 2.2 million kill points to 287,000. And the other thing that I want to show you guys, right, obviously we have a 305 right here, but just keep an eye on the comparison here between Emperor Qin and some of the other reports, right? Obviously if we're looking here, the only thing that's even close is Bai Chi Liu Che, which has my best equipment and best armaments. All right, here's another one, 189%, 2.7 million kill points to 1.4. This one is 1.9 million kill points to 281,000. That's 679%. Now obviously when I'm screenshotting this, I'm probably still on white or yellow, right? But like the fact that you're able to farm so many kill points so quickly is insane, especially when you consider the pace of the farming here, right? If you look again, the only thing kind of close is Bai Chi with Liu Che. Everything else is not even close, right? I'm 5 marching it and we're farming kills so much faster with Emperor Qin Zhuge Liang. Here's another one, 226%. We have 3 million kill points to 1.3, and here you can see I'm braving the odds with some of these other marches, right? These other marches ain't doing so hot, and yet here we are, just an outlier, just straight up outperforming everything by a mile. It's not even close. It looks like I ended this report at 144%, right? So I was probably still on like low or mid yellow when I screenshotted this, and even dying, right, even sad facing all the way to 0, I still traded positive here. Here we have another one, 2 million kill points to 654,000. This is a 308% report where everybody else is trading negative by like a lot, right? Here we've got another, this one I traded negative as well. So you can look at this and say, wow, that's an outlier, but it's like, yeah, well, the only March that keeps having outliers is this one, and so it's kind of a trend. Take a look at this one, 1.5 million kill points to 339,000. That's a 452%. We've got actually an outperforming Huo Joan. No idea what the numbers were for that one. That could have been a small report, but some of these are braving the odds. Again, some of these are getting absolutely clapped. This one, it looks like I ended 5 minutes ago, is 202%, still a 2-to-1 trade there, which is nice. And then again, 1 million kill points to 264,000. We got a couple of these, again, deadlock, braving the odds, right? Like it's looking rough for some of these marches, and Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang is just clapping right now. Did I get some bad reports? Of course I got some bad reports, but when I look through all my screenshots, right, like if I basically, as I'm going and I'm checking my reports, I'm like, oh, that's kind of good, and I screenshot it and I just move on and we keep playing, right? And then after all the fighting is over, I go back through the screenshots to see like which ones were the best, and at the end of the day I had way more Emperor Qin screenshots that were impressive than anything else, right? So needless to say, my Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang is contender for my best army in the game. The only thing coming close was my Bai Chi with Liu Che. So let's now take a quick look at the difference between my equipment on both of these marches and the armaments on both of these marches. So on the left, obviously we have my infantry gear and armaments. On the right we have my archer stuff, and as you can see, we have a tier 2 helmet on both, although this is the KvK helmet. We have a talented chest piece on both, tier 3 for the infantry. We have a talented KvK weapon on infantry and only an untalented tier 2 set piece weapon for my archers. So the weapon is clearly much stronger on infantry. Now we have tier 2 gloves on both, except it's talented over on the archer side. I did not work for this, by the way. I just got lucky when I crafted it. Same thing with the chest piece here. If we look at the legs here, we have tier 4 talent on infantry, tier 2 untalent for the archers. Clearly better legs on the infantry. We have tier 5 boots with a special talent for the infantry, tier 5 boots, no talent for the archers. I'm actually working on that now. And then between the two, the ring is actually talented with a tier 2 for infantry, untalented tier 1 for both of the accessories here. Now I know you're looking at that and saying, Omniarch, that is not the best in slot equipment. I know, I started crafting this before the leadership stuff came into the game, and I had plans on building a second archer march and then kind of separating these into 2 of the best sets that you could do, and I just never got around it. So I have this sort of hodgepodge makeup of like decent gear, right? This set probably only performs like 2% worse than best in slot, by the way, if it was all talented, obviously. So, you know, I just want to be very clear, like the nuance in in the different types of archer gear is super minuscule. It's like a pointless debate, but anyway, clearly the gear on my infantry is much better, right? Like it's just clearly better. If we take a look at the armaments, we have the pincer formation versus the wedge formation. So this does 10% more smite damage, this does 5% more skill damage. So right out of the gate, the formation is twice as good, right? If we're looking at the active skill, twice as good for pincer formation. Just it is what it is. We have 2 special inscriptions for infantry, none on archers. I don't even have hunter on this. Okay, I've just got a bare bones. This is just stuff that I pulled. I didn't even like, I think I refined one of these, like that's it, right? 2 special talents, 3 normal talents on the infantry, and 4 just common talents on the archers. We have 11.3% attack on both. We have 11.9% defense for infantry, 10.9% defense for archers, so pretty close, slightly better for infantry. Here we have 8.3% health, 1.7% health for archers, so clearly more health on the infantry, but we have 1.8% all damage on infantry and 3.4% all damage on archers. So clearly the archers have more all damage, about twice as much, right? So in the stat department, I would say that they're pretty close, right? Obviously infantry has more health, here we have more all damage, so it's pretty close. The inscriptions on the infantry march are just much better, right? And again, the pincer formation is just twice as good. Okay, so here we have an instance where I have better gear on the infantry march, a better formation on the infantry march, I have better inscriptions on the infantry march, and I have about the same stats, maybe slightly better stats on the infantry. Let's just call it even, right? Because there's a lot of all damage here. So all in all, it's just better for infantry, right? I mean, you could just look at it, it is what it is. And yet Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang is still contender for my best march in KvK, which is actually insane. So with all of that being said, now that you know just how strong Emperor Qin is out of the box, without having hunter, without having anything special, just whatever I had laying around for armaments and some decent gear, but nothing like groundbreaking, right? It's clearly not best in SLA. I've got 2 special talents, that's it. Let me share with you guys some of the things that I learned about Emperor Qin through this fighting that I did yesterday. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, this is the talent build that I'm running. I showed this in my previous video, but this is what we're rocking with here. Okay, we're not using feral nature. We came all the way up here, put 5 points into whistling arrows, and we used our last 2 points to put 1 into the defense and 1 into 3 extra rage per basic attack. You could take those 2 points and you could put them over here. I'm still not convinced about naked rage, to be honest with you. There's still so much more skill damage on the board than you're outputting that it doesn't feel worth it to me. So in other words, I'm bumping, let's say I put 2 points here, right? I'm dealing 4% more skill damage on my 1 march, right? I'm dealing 4% more skill damage on 1 march, but I'm taking 4% more skill damage from every other skill damage march on the entire battlefield in perpetuity, right? So that is Ragnar CPOs, that is Huo Arthurs, that is Huo Jones, that is other Emperor Qins with Zhuge Liang, that is Zhuge Liang Herman Prime, that is Ashurbanipal YSG. Like there's so much skill damage on the board still. I don't know, it doesn't, to me, it's not worth it to take this. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future. This might not be doing anything, right? To be honest with you, like this 1 point here might be just thrown in the garbage. Even still, would I put it here or would I put it somewhere safer, like an attack? I'm not really sure. The risk reward for naked rage, to me, I'm not seeing it. I'm not convinced yet. Again, I could change my mind later, but for right now, it just doesn't seem like something you need to use. And in a case where it doesn't feel like I need it, it's like, why would I take the risk, right? One of the other things that I noticed about Emperor Qin, obviously his damages output is insane. He's slow. He's still slow. That will never change. Emperor Qin is slow because you have no march speed on your Zhuge Liang. There's no march speed here, so yeah, your damage output's going to be insane, but it's kind of like bringing a tank to the battlefield. Like it's going to deal a ton of damage, but it's going to get there real slow. It's basically as slow as an infantry march. Like it is what it is. It's just every time I'm walking around the battlefield, the slowest thing on my field, right, is Emperor Qin and also my Ragnar CPO, right? Like they're just slow. It is what it is. So that is still a huge downside for Emperor Qin, and it almost makes me want to run Emperor Qin with Herman Prime, right? Like I'm so close to testing this march out just because I want the march speed, right? I just want that 15% march speed. I'll get my poison stacks back, which will be fantastic. I want to try it, right? I mean, you're going to fire so much poison into the battlefield that I feel like you're going to get the expertise here more often than you ever would before. So it's something that I want to try. I haven't pulled the trigger yet because it hasn't been like a game changer that he's a little bit slow, but if it does end up being the case that like I need him to just move on the battlefield, I'm going to bench Zhuge Liang for my Herman Prime, but I haven't made that jump yet. And really it comes down to the fact that I I need these boots talented so that way I can get to the bonus on that 5% march speed, right? And as you can see, I'm working on it. We'll get there soon. Now let's talk about Horn of Fury. I know a lot of people have been talking about Horn of Fury. In my real world testing, what I've discovered is that if you do not use Horn of Fury with this talent build, sometimes you will cast your skill every 5 to 6 turns. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because you lose some of the rage consumption when you're going in and out of battle. Maybe there's just not enough targets around to consume fast enough. I don't really know exactly what it is, but there were times where I would run ring and dagger because I just have the dagger. Like, I don't think dagger's meta. It's just I have it, right? And I got to put it on somebody. So, you know, with that being said, without Horn, I think my skill cycle was anywhere from 4 to 6 turns, right? Realistically, in real world fighting. With Horn, I would say it's probably around 4 to 5 turns, right? So, you know, people are asking, is Horn of Fury useless on Emperor Chin with Zhuge Liang? On paper, maybe, but in real world fighting, it still does something, right? It still does something. However, if you have a limited number of horns, this is the safest place to remove your horn, right? And in fact, I'm actually going to do that right now because I forgot that I was testing this out. So I do not think you need the Horn of Fury on Emperor Chin. Is it still useful? Yes. Do you need it? No. The other thing I want to touch on here is the Pendant of Eternal Night. This is kind of the flavor of the month, right? I know a few months ago the flavor of the month was war drums. Everyone's saying all your marches need war drums, and then that hype died down immediately. Pendant of Eternal Night, I feel like, is in the same boat. I think that, you know, is it best in slot? It might be, right? It might be best in slot. Is it worth crafting for Emperor Chin alone? I don't think so, and so I will not be doing that. If you have Pendant of Eternal Night already, then yeah, definitely run it on your Emperor Chin, right? Like, of course, where else are you going to run it? This is the best place to run it. Like, of course, he is the best place to run it, so that's where you're going to run it, of course, right? But again, is it worth crafting this just for Emperor Chin? Right now, I don't think so. I don't plan on doing it for my account. The accessories are just such expensive investments, and when you have something that historically has not been meta enough to move the needle, is one commander going to change that forever? Maybe, but probably not. However, it's good news if you already have it, right? Like, obviously, if you already have it, this is fantastic. Run it on him. That's great, right? But for 120 legendary materials, it's just not something that I'm gonna jump on top of right away. Again, a couple months from now, maybe if it looks like, okay, yeah, it is just a game changer for Emperor Chin, maybe I'll come in and take a second look. But right now, yes. Is it great on Emperor Chin? Yes. Do you need it for Emperor Chin? No, you do not need it. He's going to perform super well without it. Did you craft it just for Emperor Chin? Maybe if you're like a new player, but like, I don't know, it just seems much safer to craft things like the Ring of Doom, for example. And again, the Horn of Fury, like, even though you definitely don't need the Horn of Fury on Emperor Chin, the fact that it still does something in real world fighting makes it so much more versatile, right? Even if it's like only okay, even if it's only okay on Emperor Chin in real world fighting, you know, a year from now, you know, there's another new archer commander out, it might be even better with him. Or, you know, you move it to somebody else, you know, there's a new infantry commander that comes out and you need Horn of Fury, you move it to him, right? Like, that's the benefit of the accessories, is that they are not locked to a troop type. And so if we're looking at Pendant of Eternal Night being best in slot only for Emperor Chin, then you're kind of locking it into that one commander, right? And I just don't love that. I don't like crafting accessories that I'm only ever going to use for one commander. The one exception that I made was Greatest Glory, and honestly, did I need to craft this for my Liu Che? Not really, right? I honestly didn't need this. I think that in hindsight, I probably should have crafted another horn or maybe a war drums. I'm just kind of speaking from experience. For me, like, I was in a position where I crafted one of these pendants for one specific commander and I kind of regret it, and so I'm not going to make that decision again for Emperor Chin, even though clearly this performs well, and if you have it, you should use it. So that's my thoughts on Pendant of Eternal Night and the Horn of Fury for Emperor Chin, for those that are wondering. Now again, I've only fought with him for about 10 hours, right? And so I'm going to keep testing things out. I'm going to keep seeing, you know, does it move the needle? If I keep using Horn, if I don't use Horn, does it change the math? For me, so far, the Horn has not really changed the math a ton. I've been able to notice a difference with the Horn, but like, the reports are still fantastic with or without it, right? And so for me, who doesn't have 5 horns, it's like, well, the one march that needs it the least is Emperor Chin, so I'm not going to run it on my Emperor Chin, obviously. That's another thing I want to touch on. Like, of course, if you're running him with YSG, you're going to get even more value out of the horn, right? Because you don't have the expertise value from Zhuge Liang, right? He gains 30 rage per target hit here, which is a lot of guaranteed rage every single skill cycle. And with YSG, you have a chance of gaining rage on the second skill, but it's a 10% chance, right? And so it's not the same, right? You just get a better guaranteed rage engine with Zhuge Liang. So if you're running Emperor Qin with YSG, Horn becomes a little bit better, right, on Emperor Qin. But that being said, you know, Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang being one of my strongest, if not my strongest march in the entire KvK, you know, you can look back at my KvK results from my previous KvK. My Zhuge Liang with Hermann Prime, I think, was middle of the pack in terms of performance. Like, it was strong, it was reliable, it was consistent, but it wasn't top 2 best marches in the game. And Emperor Qin immediately made that the case, even though I didn't really change much with the equipment and I didn't change anything at all with the armaments, right? So yeah, that's why. Also, one of the reasons why I think he's one of the strongest commanders in the game right now is because if you look at Baiqi Liu Che as like kind of the best commander pairing in the game right now, they get a lot of their power from pincer formation, to be honest with you guys. Like airtight, toppler, there's a lot of really strong special inscriptions in pincer, and I do think that pincer is still the best formation in the game for sure, right? But the fact that Emperor Qin comes onto the scene and uses like the wedge formation, which is super old, and he's still performing as good as the best stuff in the game right out of the gate without anything special, is kind of insane, right? Especially because we know the developers are going to implement another skill damage formation maybe at the end of this year or early next year, right? So like if we get, let's say, a 10% skill damage skin, then that's open and shut case. I do think Emperor Qin will be like the de facto best commander in the game, right? As a single commander, he might already be that. He's easily on the same level as Liu Che and Zhuge Liang. I think probably better than those two. He just casts his active skills so much, he puts out so much damage, it's hard to swarm him. I tried cheeseburgering Emperor Qin marches and it doesn't work, right? And it might have been the case that I was just hitting whales, but you know, I see Emperor Qin Zhuge Liang, I tried to cheeseburger it with Liu Che Alex, I tried to cheeseburger it with King Arthur and Philip, and you just trade negative, like you just lose, like there's nothing you can do, right? So like he's a little bit tanky and he also outputs a ton of damage, like it's actually insane. So for me, I think there's a high probability that Emperor Qin is the single best commander in the game. If we get a new skill damage formation by the end of this year, I think Emperor Qin with Zhuge Liang will clearly be the best commander pairing in the game, but we will have to wait and see. Right now, really it comes down to pincer formation, right? If you have 2, 3, or 4 special inscriptions on your Baiqi Liu Che, that still might be the best performing march in the game, perhaps, right? So we'll have to wait and see how the formation landscape changes over the next couple of months. But guys, that is kind of my first impressions of Emperor Qin after using him for 10 hours. Once again, I just want to remind you guys, I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you 9 months ago. I tried to warn you 6 months ago. Don't invest in these commanders that are good but not great, because I knew that the next set of commanders, the 10th generation, was bound to be stronger. It was because there was just a lot of averageness in the last set of commander releases, and so I knew that this generation would be filled with must-have commanders, right? These are must-have commanders moving forward. And you know, if you wasted 700 sculptures on William Wallace, or you wasted 700 sculptures on Belisarius Prime, it's like, I don't know what to tell you right now. Again, are they useless commanders? No. Can they perform well? Yes. Is Belisarius Prime still great for swarming things down? Absolutely, right? But they don't stack up to this. They don't. I'm sorry, like they just, the 10th generation is much stronger than the 9th generation, and I knew that would happen, and I tried to warn you, and I hope you guys listened. And moving forward, you know, I will try my best to continue to warn you guys about the future of the meta, even though people are still going to give me pushback. They're still going to say that I'm wrong. They're still going to say that, you know, they're going to question my strategy, or, oh, he's still performing so well for me. Despite the pushback, I'm still going to tell you guys when I think that I'm right, and boy, does it feel good to be right. With that being said, if you made it to the end of the video, I really hope you'll drop a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. It helps push this video out into the YouTube algorithm so other Rise of Kingdoms players might see it. It tells YouTube that you enjoyed the video, and that really helps out my channel a lot more than you think. While you're down there, consider subscribing to the channel if you want 9-month in advance warnings of if you should invest in commanders or not. Subscribe to the channel. You can't afford to not subscribe to the channel. I'm telling you, do it. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell if you want to be notified the next time I upload a video, and comment down below your first impressions of Emperor Qin. Have you used him on the battlefield? Let me know in the comment section below. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.